And this video is part 2 of the Eye of the Tiger and how we painted this cool piece right here. Alright, the biggest question I've gotten about this so far has been, how do I get that really cool glarish highlight inside the eye? I'm going to pop up right on the screen, let you guys see where I started with the two colors of blue. The lightest color of blue is, of course, my most highlight color, and then the darker portion of blue is the continuation of the pupil. I'm going to play this clip, and I want you guys to watch the blue. Oh, stop it, you guys are too much. What happened there is, and you've heard me, if you've been following me for any length of time, you've heard me mention the term simultaneous contrast a few times. But suffice it to say, the colors and the values around things influence the way you perceive color. So how I'm going to start out, I am taking a little bit of moss green and I have added a little bit of white to it. Just give me a little bit of way to keep that tone from getting too much. Put that first color in, and then you see me add that second color in, which was a yellow, and just kind of ran out from there. But I'm going to be stacking on top of those colors. So you can see I started with a sienna mix, roughly a burnt sienna, and I'm going to start coming in here and working around the edges. Notice when I'm working around those highlight sections, the blue sections there, I'm working around them tediously, minor and small details repeatedly throughout this picture. We'll do a little bit of blending and a whole lot of little dots and spots and details. And all of these little details will continue to exist throughout this painting. I'm going to work it in a transparent method. Next, I'm going to put in the darkest part of the pupil, which is almost a black mix, not quite. And then I'm going to go with a sienna, roughly a sepia tone, and start bringing some darks around that. And you're going to watch the appearance change of the colors around it. Why do I keep harping on these, how colors appear? The reason I keep harping on this is because you will never be able to consistently create artwork that looks very realistic and has that much depth to it until you start to grasp the concepts of how colors work around it. What's going to happen is eventually you won't need to watch my videos at all, except for the entertainment value and seeing my handsome face. Alright, as I was just saying, so there's the dark section of the pupil, and you see how dramatically that starts changing the look of that glare. And now I am coming in with roughly a sepia tone. I'm going to use combinations of texture stencils, combinations of freehand work. Some things are going to be little bitty dots, and some things are going to be little bitty tiny blends. And so it's that combination of blends and dots that will get that texture, and that, that's going to give you that extreme detail. But it is the colors that we use that will make the most impact. And so I'm going to come through here and do a lot of little line work, and we're going to come over on the left hand side here in a little bit. We're shading out over here. We're going to do some blend work. You'll see those are just blends. And then shortly we're going to come over here to the left hand side and start putting little line work in over the other highlights on the left, to the left of the pupil. And what that is simulating, it is simulating tree branches, where the tree branches are reflected in the eye. When you have something like that, what happens, the shadows are more of the natural tone of the eye, and the highlights are sticking out. So what you have is the glare reflected that's left between the shadows of the branches is what you're looking at there. And that is separate from the actual details inside the eye. On those highlights, you get the shadows and reflections that come off. So you have a tree in there, and sometimes you can see a reflection of a person in a highlight like that. And that is how you simulate that look. And it makes a huge, tremendous impact in your artwork. Now, what I'm doing is I am pulling out the little sunlight behind those little branches that I was talking about. So you might not immediately recognize those are branches, but on a subconscious level, your mind recognizes it and gives you that concept. Your mind fills it in, and all of a sudden goes, wow, that's really realistic looking. But unless you really pay attention and look, you wouldn't be able to tell that that's little tree branches. So you see I worked on that sienna mix and brought it down. That sienna mix has slightly greenish tones to it to complement the greens that I had in there. Now I'm coming in with a burnt umber. It may be desaturated slightly, but it's mostly a burnt umber mix. And of course, we're going in here and working detail after tedious detail, little dots, little lines. Do I follow the actual reference picture 100%? No. Now you'll see how I'm starting to darken these tones. I have mixed up that burnt umber and added a little bit of a blue violet to it to darken it up, give it an almost black tone. And I'm starting to shade out on the outside edges. What you're seeing me do right here on the top left hand side, and I moved away from it, but you see that I dropped those little eyelash looking things, which are actually reflections of the eyelash. You actually do not even see the eyelashes in this particular reference photo, nor will you see it inside the painting. It was not something that was picked up by the camera, and it's not something that was there. I should have probably used a shield right here. I mentioned that I was doing this on a live feed. However, I was pretty confident in my ability to shade, and I'm putting that darkest ring around the outside edge of the eye. Notice on the outside edge of that eye, that color is not all one color. Remember, I left that little bit of highlight section for the skin that appears on the outside of the eyeball. That's a lot of different colors that you're putting in there. Yes, it is a lot of different colors. So there are roughly about 6 different colors that I use just inside this eyeball when it's all said and done. But all those colors stack and layer upon each other. Remember, we're working light to dark in your darkest tones. And I'm working with transparents just to avoid any overspray issues, things like that. Then I will do a little bit of touch-up highlights with some white here in just a moment. And let's go ahead and finish up the details of this eyeball and finish it up and see how we come out. So we're getting very, very close. But what we're going to do now is we're going to look back at our picture and see where we might need a little extra detail. And I decided that the little extra detail was needed on those tree branches right there. And then look at your eye and decide, okay, does my eye have that rounded appearance that I want in it? How can I make anything, little different things better? Somebody asked me while I was working about this about overworking your painting. The reality is you really can't overwork a painting. You can mess a painting up, but you really can't overwork one. The question is, where do you stop with details? Now, can you mess a painting up? Absolutely, you can mess a painting up, but you should not be able to mess a painting up if you know what effect you're trying to achieve before you achieve it. So it's important to understand, if you are looking at a painting and you're wanting to do something, know it needs to something, but you're not sure what the effect it is going to give before you spray the paint, do not put any paint on your painting. If you do not know what effect it is going to leave when you paint it, do not put the paint on until you are sure. If you're not 100% confident, but you think it's going to work, then what you need to do is go off to a scrap piece of paper, mix a couple of your colors together, and try out the effect you're planning on using. Then the last thing I'm going to do is take a little bit of white, and I'm going to go in here and touch up a little bit of things. Notice when I use that white, that creates some of that blue shift, which gives me a little bit of gray cast, which I use effectively all the time in pet portraiture. Alrighty, guys, that is our final piece. Anyway, I hope you guys got something out of this tutorial. I do have a question for you. Ask yourself this: how many times did you skip forward inside this video? And the reason I'm asking this, because I get a lot of questions. I get messages and all sorts of things from people who ask me questions that I explained in a video. And that doesn't really surprise me at all. I know what the stats are. But it's important to understand, if you don't grasp the concepts of how things are, your artwork is never going to make dramatic leaps and jumps forward. My entire goal in creating this channel was to help people, and that is entirely my goal. But anyway, I appreciate you guys stopping by. I hope you enjoyed the video today. If you have not yet, please subscribe, hit the notification bell. Click the like button. If you didn't like the video, well, I'm surprised you're here, but go ahead and click the thumbs down, and that'll work just fine with me. So, hopefully I will see you guys in the future. If you have any questions about materials that I use, I will have a link down in the description below for my kit page, which has most of the material and equipment that I use, and it's continually being updated probably every few days. But anyway, once again, we appreciate you stopping by our channel. Y'all have a good one. Bye.